Nancy Treaster and Sue Ryan, thank you for coming on the couch next door.
Thank you for inviting us.
We're glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so excited that y'all said yes. I just, the internet connects people in a crazy way. And I sent you all an email because y'all are killing it in the caregiver space. I mean, y'all are just hitting it out of the park. I'm so thankful for the work that y'all do. And we'll get to why I think this conversation is so important and so necessary because of the work that I do with my clients. But let's get to know y'all a little bit better. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves? Tell us about the work, your podcast, your nonprofit, all the things. What do we all need to know? All the stuff. Yeah. So let us hear it.
Yeah.
All right. Get us started.
All right. Nancy and I, in our 20s, used to work together. And her husband and I worked together, and we got to know each other. And then I got transferred. So we kind of lost touch a little bit with each other. And then I went on multiple family caregiving journeys. And in parallel, she was on caregiving journeys. And her husband, Kim, was diagnosed. And she was struggling to find answers. And one of her friends said, why don't you call Sue? And she started calling me, and we started talking, and things she was frustrated about, I'd figured out because I'd been frustrated about and I'd experienced. And one day we were visiting together, and we said, this is just wrong. It shouldn't be this difficult.
Yeah, right.
And when you're a caregiver, you're frustrated and you're overwhelmed, and there's so many different things to go on. And in our careers, we just, we figured this out from a professional level, and we decided that let's bring the answers to questions people don't know to ask. And then let's also give them really like chop, really straight tips and have candid conversations. And we decided to get this started. And then what we recognized is we wanted to make this really easy for people to consume. And so we took the idea, we co-founded the Caregiver's Journey, and we said, let's make it a nonprofit so that the intention which we have as pure is modeled through everything we do. And that's where it started.
Sure did. And dementia has been a big part of both Sue and I's personal lives, not just in caregiving, but in the people that have been affected by it. Our spouses, both our fathers, my father-in-law, Sue's grandmother. So we wake up every day and think about how do we help dementia family caregivers have an easier way of life. And so that's our focus.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting because y'all weren't in this space professionally. Y'all were software engineering or what, right?
We were both in software.
Yeah. So y'all were in software, but this brought y'all back together. And I mean, when y'all say our intention was to make it digestible and easy for people to consume, y'all, they have done that. Like even just listening to your podcast and y'all just spell it out. And I know when we spoke before, y'all said, caregivers don't have time. They need it straight to the point, give them what they need to know so that they can then live that out, practice that, take those tools and start to use them. And y'all do such a good job of that. I'm so thankful for
We
for
hold
that
ourselves
vision.
very accountable to that. I mean, we
work hard. We do a lot of preparation work for it.
We have a 25-minute podcast. And of course, there's a matching blog for every podcast. And I bet we spend, 5 to 10 hours outlining and creating the podcast before we do it, because you can't create a 25-minute, like you said, very to the point podcast if you don't really beat it up. And we have so much mutual respect from such a long history together that we're not shy. I'll say, well, Sue, why are you saying that? Why do you think that's important? And she'll say, because of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And then, so have we thought about it this way? And we just bounce things off each other and then really get to what we think is the net crux of what needs to get across.
Yeah. And if one of us says, no, we respect each other where we don't have to like trigger, well, perhaps you could maybe consider about it. It's like, no,
that's not what I think. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and y'all work really nicely together. I mean, and y'all have this shared experience, but like you're saying, you also have this shared respect of one another, knowing your individual experiences, but there's so many similarities, I imagine, to your individual experiences. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So the Caregiver's Journey, that is the nonprofit that y'all created. Okay. And so you mentioned, Sue, like you wanted to make sure it was communicated that our intention is pure. Why was that so important to be communicated through that?
Dementia family caregivers have a lot going on in their journey. I know that with each one of my loved ones, you don't know how long the journey is going to be. You're overwhelmed. There's one of the first things that comes up is, oh my gosh, this is going to be so expensive. I don't know what it's going to cost. I don't know where to go to get answers. So all of these things get jumbled up. And we wanted to make sure that people knew that our resources, they're not going to have to invest financially in them. And also when it comes to how much time, we understand how busy they are and how overwhelmed they are. So we wanted to make sure that we invested everything that we could to get as much content out that they could go ahead and get consumed easily and in a short period of time. So everything we've done is through that lens and give them more peace of mind as well as answers.
So we have 3 major resources that Sue and I create natively, and that is our podcast. We found a lot of people were looking at our podcast and trying to take notes during the podcast. Well, our goal is to make it as easy as possible on Dementia Family Caregivers. So we created a blog that matches every podcast, so you don't need to take notes. And then we create guides, which are a much more detailed version of something that we're talking about, and maybe combines 3 or 4 different topics where we might have talked about home safety. We talk about wandering, talk about safety in the home, and we talk about safety at wandering and nighttime safety. And so we collect all those topics where there might have been 3 or 4 different podcasts, and we put them into a guide. So if you want to just get the whole net on safety or incontinence, you can get it. And then we really challenged ourselves about a year ago, how much should we create and how much should we go out into the world and find good quality resources that match our core values, which is honors dementia family caregivers' time and gets to the point and gives real answers. So we have found
it doesn't cost anything.
We have found some books. We have found some training that we believe matches our core values. And so we recommend those as opposed to, we didn't go out and have to build all of it. We've been very careful to make sure what we recommend matches the core values that we have. So when dementia family caregivers get something from us, they know that it's going to be in that genre.
And we've already read it. We've gone through it personally. And we're like, okay, like we've both gone through, like, would this have been helpful to us? Was this the kind of thing that if we had that, oh my gosh, that would have been so good. So there are things that we'll evaluate and go, no. Yeah. So everything that we've done, we've kind of battle tested through the lens of our own experiences.
Yeah. Well, because when somebody becomes a caregiver, most of the time they've never done it before, right? This isn't like something that they've had experience with. It's like, I mean, drinking from a fire hose. Like, I mean, it's just like you are all of a sudden like find yourself in that. It's usually not even a decision that you get to make. Agreed. So yeah. So to have people like the two of you that have gone before, vetted all of the resources, like, again, it does. It lines up with y'all's values. You don't want people to have to pay for it. You want it to be easy, digestible, all the things. So helpful because, we in the caregiver role, you don't really get to do things very slowly or deliberately or intentional all the time. You just find yourself in the middle.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we'll dive into, I know specifically the roadmap that y'all created because I'm really excited to introduce people to that. But let's get to know y'all a little bit better and hear your rants for today.
Sue
okay, come on, Sue.
I have a rant. My rant is should. Don't should on yourself. I should be able to do this. Don't should on yourself. I should be able to stay up all night. I should be able to help him do this. I should be able to stop it. Don't should on yourself. Whenever you start to say, I should, stop, pause, and come back and say, this is something that's really challenging. It's reasonable I would be struggling with it. I've never done this before. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to find someone who can help. I'm going to seek resources. I'm not going to judgment. Should is a judgment word. People judge themselves, and then they start building up judgment and feeling. Another word that they shouldn't feel is guilty. So
Yeah.
don't should on yourself. Is that a good enough? Is that a good enough? Is that clear?
That's a great rant. Well, because and you even said in your form, because you're right, that then leads to guilt, but it's not even really guilt because you haven't done anything wrong. You don't know what you're doing. So if you should yourself, then you feel guilty, but it's not really guilt. It's something else. It's judgment, right?
It's judgment. And people, when I'm doing seminars and things like that, and people will say, "Oh, I feel so guilty." I say, "Have you ever actually like looked up the word guilt?"
Right.
Guilty
Absolutely.
In the
Yeah.
dictionary. I mean, it means it's punishable by law, and it's the wrong emotion. And so when you say
Right.
you feel guilty, but what you really do is you're really probably feeling sad.
Yes.
So if you don't process your emotion with the right thing, you can't process it. So if you're trying to get over feeling guilty, but you really feel sad, you're not going to get over feeling guilty, and you're not going to process sad. All the more reason not to start with should.
Yes. Well, man, you're speaking to this therapist heart because I feel like I'm constantly having to educate, which I get because we throw that word guilt around, but you're right. It's usually not guilt because you usually haven't done anything wrong. It's nothing to be punished about, but it seems that's what that is. But if you don't identify the appropriate feeling, then you're not going to be able to deal with it. You're dealing with a feeling you're not even experiencing. Yes. So good. Okay, Nancy, what's your rant?
So I rant often about the fact that Sue always rants about shoulding. I mean, how often do we talk about this? I feel it's been ranted plenty. So that's my rant. No more ranting about shoulding.
She rants about my shoulding.
About your ranting.
Yeah, she rants about my ranting.
She supports the non-shoulding, but the ranting of the shoulding.
Sula, I'm telling you about every other podcast, and I say that obviously very lightheartedly because it is important. So many of the topics that we talk about, you have to give yourself grace because you have the reason you're listening to this podcast is you have no idea how to handle this particular situation.
Right.
So even if you do know how to handle it, it's some of these situations just come at you at a mile a minute, and they're so difficult to handle. And every time it comes at you, it's different than it was the last time. So you're just doing the best you can every single time.
And in the real world, I am not a ranter.
That's the truth. She's
so
really not.
It comes like out of the blue for me and for everybody else, but it's like a trigger for me.
She gets excited
because it's so not supportive to people who need so much support. And if you like, part of the reason I go ahead and rant on it is it's like, okay, you made your point. Because it just doesn't serve anybody. But yeah, day in and day out, I'm not a ranter.
But this one she likes, though. This is her topic.
Yeah, well, I know when I mentioned it when we had our initial call and I said, y'all have to rant, Sue got real excited. Nancy was like, ooh, I don't know. So this tracks, right?
Yeah, well, there you go.
I love it. Well, and perfect segue because, your rant, Sue, definitely falls in line with, a lot of what we're talking about today in the caregiver's role. And so just to kind of set this conversation up a little bit, we could probably have a 5-hour conversation with all of the things, and we're not going to do that today because you know what? Sue and Nancy have already set things up. So I'm going to make sure that the show notes, they're just full of all the information that we're talking about. You'll be able to reference back. You'll be able to find them on the internet, their podcasts, all the things. So this is really going to be just a foundation, right? A foundation for listeners that may be in the caregiver role, or maybe they're anticipating going to be in that role. And just kind of giving them a little bit of an overview and just sort of the right now information. And so the deeper information that y'all are going to be able to find is through Nancy and Sue's website and podcasts and things. So just to give everybody a heads up, this isn't going to be super deep, but we're going to give you some information to get started. And so just to kind of mention here too, it's been so interesting over the last 5 years in my practice how many of my clients have found themselves in this caregiver role. And whether they knew it was coming or they kind of have just found themselves as the person that's giving care to their aging family member, it's just been remarkable for me to hear how many of these individuals that I've been seeing for years are finding themselves in this role. And it's so challenging. So when I found y'all on the internet, first of all, I was like, well, I want them to be on my podcast, but now I have something to send to people, to give to my clients, because it's hard to find that support. It's hard to find the resources. It's hard to find the information. There's so many questions. And I know that's exactly why y'all created all of this. So let's first talk about like tactical help, tangible resources y'all created, guides, the worksheets. I know the Navigating Dementia Caregiving Roadmap. I know that's a big thing that y'all have developed. Mm-hmm. Give us kind of a highlight of some of those resources, those tangible resources y'all have created.
So maybe the best place to start actually is the roadmap, because Sue and I joke, believe it or not, we've only been around for about 14 months. And we launched, we published this roadmap about a month ago. And I laughed and said, Sue, it took us a year to define the caregiver's journey. So, yeah. But ironically, so for dementia family caregivers, we find ourselves in a position of two extremes. The first extreme is I have no idea what to do and nothing seems to tell me what to do.
Right.
Or you come back from the doctor's office and your loved one's got a diagnosis of dementia and you have all these leaflets with all these possible resources you could have. You have no idea which ones you should bother with now, which ones can wait until later, or they point to each one has, here's 15 different podcasts you can listen to. Here's 10 different books you can read. And it's like, so which one should I read? And, where do I go? So we spent months meticulously defining 20 steps for the dementia family caregiver's journey. And we split it up into 3 sections. And the way we define the sections are what we said are the stages of dementia family caregiving, not the stages of dementia. Right. These are what Sue and I brainstormed are the way that we think through what happened to us in our caregiving journey and how we think about the things we needed to tackle in different sections of the caregiving journey. And there are 3 major sections: in the beginning, messy middle, and later on. And then we said, what would we advise someone else to do right after they get a diagnosis? What are the first things they need to do? And then what would we say once they get into that messy middle? What do they need to do next? What do we suggest they do next? And then what steps should they go through? And then as things start to get towards the end and the loved one gets more, they just are just listening. They're not fighting you on anything anymore. They're just doing what you say. We call that later on. And then what should you do at that point? And we said, this has to be simple. So it's 20 steps. And so in the guide that we created, you physically go through step by step. What are the steps? What should you tackle right now? And then it's a digital guide. So you can click on the link that takes you exactly where you need to go on the Alzheimer's Association website to see this thing, or the link to the Memory Cafe website where you can find a memory cafe near you. So it's got hot links throughout it. So it takes you directly where you need to go. And it's 20 total steps. So it's not overwhelming at all.
And because we've separated it out, part of the overwhelm when you get started on the journey is you don't know what you need to know.
Yeah. And what you don't need to worry about.
Yeah. Right. So you not only don't know what it is you need to know, then you don't know when you're going to want to know it. So we have them be able to go, oh, okay. So if somebody brings me this, I probably don't need to deal with it now, but there will be a time so I can be aware of it. But it lets them focus on the things that are going to be most valuable for them to prioritize in this session of their journey.
Well, and I think that's the thing. Like, you usually haven't done this before, so you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's quote unquote normal, or what this experience is going to be like. And so just to even have a place where they can look at it and say, oh, okay, this is a lot of what a lot of people deal with in the messy middle. These are the things. This is lining up with my experience. Okay. I mean, even just that, to see that somebody created something and it's similar to your experience is huge, because it's so isolating to be in this caregiver role for numerous reasons, right? I mean, there's so many reasons, but just to have a place that somebody's created this, it communicates. You're not by yourself. There have been other people that are dealing with this now, have dealt with it before, and will continue to deal with it, right? And so just to have a place where people can go to access that just at least gives comfort that they're not alone in that.
So the reason I started with the roadmap was actually what Sue and I've described is in the 20-step roadmap, we tell you which podcasts to go listen to at which, depending on where you are in the step. So we've taken our plethora of podcasts and blogs and guides, and we've pointed to you which ones you should care about first and which ones you need. And for example, the first podcast is podcast number, I don't know, it's palliative care 42 or something. That's the first podcast we want you to listen to.
Right. Yeah.
42, then 32, and then 2 and 3. So we've put the podcast and blogs in the order that you should consume them to make it easier for you to understand what it is that the journey, where you are in the journey, so that it's not, we don't become this website that's just a massive amount of information you don't know where to start. So start with the guide, the roadmap guide, and then it'll guide you to where you should start depending on where you are.
Perfect.
And we made it intentionally. And Nancy,
I said the word should. I'm still agonizing over that.
You ought it.
I did. I said it, and I can't stop thinking about it.
See, that's the reason I rant about it, because if it raises people to their level of awareness, then they're going to go, oh my gosh.
I just keep saying that.
All right. So I apologize for that. Pretend I didn't say that. Back to you.
Okay. At any rate, one of the other things that we wanted to do, because it can be so overwhelming, and Nancy, you worded it so beautifully, we intentionally made it kind of underwhelming. We've made it very clean. We've made it very simplistic so that when people look at it, it's almost like a peaceful part of your journey to be like, okay, these are the things, but it's not, okay, do these 27 things, then do these 53 things, and then, no, it's like, okay, start here.
Yes.
And then once you get your feet up under you, then people can begin to explore and do other kinds of things, but they've got something to go to all the way through their journey, and as a place to start, as an anchor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just that right there, just even knowing where to start. People don't know where to start. And so it's so overwhelming. So either they don't do anything or they take in all the information, but either way, it's neither one of those ways are productive. And that's what I'm hearing. And, I'm hearing like, I don't know what to do. I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's too much information. There's not enough information, right? It's on either extreme. Yeah.
So let's go with this for 1 second.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your listeners. So you might be a family caregiver and not know where to start. Your mom might be taking care of your dad, and you really want to help your mom because she doesn't know where to start.
Sure.
The roadmap's for everybody, for the family. Here is a guide, Mom, we can use. We just need to worry about these 6 things right now, and that's it. We're not going to worry about anything else because that's what that's the only things we want to worry about. Everything else we're going to wait till later. So let's just focus on these. That's the concept. And so you can be the daughter, you can be the son, you can be the neighbor, the best friend. But here's a way to help someone who's a dementia family caregiver get through that process.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it contains it in each of those stages so that it doesn't have to feel as overwhelming. Right. Well, I know something that y'all both mentioned was the palliative care. And like, that's what y'all just said was, that's the starting point, but that's something that in y'all's personal experiences didn't have the knowledge of. So that's something that you really want people to be aware of. Do you want to speak to that really quickly?
And there's a really good emoji for that.
That's the truth.
Very nice.
Both of us.
Both of us for different reasons, but for both of us,
Not so good. So, it is funny. We not only built this roadmap over months of us just beating it up and trying to make it simple and straightforward. I mean, there's so much you could add. And every time we'd be tempted to add something, it's like, is that really critical? Because if it's not, we're not putting it in there.
Right.
Because
right.
that's actually the problem is so many people just keep adding everything you could do. Well, that's not really what we want to help people with. But we had 5 different social workers actually look at it as well. And there was a lot of people who made the comment, I'm surprised you're starting with palliative care. And then once I brought it up and people start to look at it, the actual, now we've gotten the reverse comments. People are like, oh my goodness, now that I get it, I'm so glad to see you started with palliative care.
Yeah.
Because most people think palliative care is part of hospice, which by the way, it's usually in the same organization.
Exactly.
And they think it happens at the end of life. And actually palliative care they want you the day after you get a diagnosis to find them, because they're actually going to not just help you. Their palliative care is for people who have a life-limiting disease. And guess what? Dementia is a life-limiting disease. It's paid for by your insurance. So why would you not want this extra level of support?
Yeah.
And the palliative care people are not just going to help the person living with dementia, but it's ironic, but steps 2, 3, and 4, palliative care will help you go through steps 2, 3, and 4. That's part of what their job is.
Wow. Yeah.
So you're going to get through step 4, and someone's going to guide you through it, because that's what palliative care is. So why wouldn't you start with it?
And so both of us underperformed in that.
Yes, we
very
did.
valuable area. I was given incorrect information. I didn't know. I didn't know it was incorrect information, and it was something that somebody else had passed along. And so I took that, and which I don't do anymore. That could be another rant.
Yeah.
But it won't be. At any rate, one of the things that happened is that I didn't take advantage of it. And then when my husband became under hospice care, which a vow in our community has hospice and it also has palliative care, and they were explaining it, it's like,
where's that been?
Where's that been? You know, that's not what I thought it was. And so because of that, and this is a part of the reason why some of the things that we have are because of what we didn't know. Some of them are because, oh, thank goodness we did know. And then some of them are because, well, we probably should have figured that out sooner. And so this was one of those, we really missed an incredible mark. And the person, Don Colderman, who gives it, has been heading up palliative care for over 20 years. So she really understood it and explains it. Really, really, really helpful. And what we recognize is we don't want anybody to miss what we missed.
But it's so interesting, as I've gone back to those people who helped us, the social workers, they're like, yeah, we should be recommending palliative care at the beginning. I'm like, oh yeah. So it's interesting. We're changing people's minds that do this for a living.
Yeah. Well, you can't know what you don't know, right? And like you said, Nancy, and I did too. I associated palliative care with hospice because that's almost like when they give it to you. But if you
hear about it.
Exactly. But it sounds like if you know that's sort of the stage that you're in, you've had that diagnosis of your loved one, you can ask for that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's paid for by insurance. Why wouldn't you have an extra level of eyes on your loved one at all times?
The other thing I want to make sure we really specify with this, because this is also a really significant misnomer or misunderstanding about palliative care, it is about continuing to thrive.
Okay. No, that's good.
The time that you go into hospice care is when you have recognized that this is toward the end of life. We're not going to continue life extending things. There's exercise, there are all kinds of different things. So palliative care is, we're still focused on thriving in our lives. Yeah. And so these are not things we knew about, and we don't want anybody else to miss the mark on that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So kind of going back to your rant, Sue, with the shoulds, the judgment, right? I mean, we talked about this before, but the judgment that impacts the mental health of the caregivers. This is a mental health podcast. So I'd like to make sure that we highlight, like, how does that impact caregivers?
There are a couple of ways to go through this, and I'd love to get your insights, because I think from your experience, what you've learned is that judgment comes in different ways.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
Some of it is self-judgment.
A lot of it is self-judgment.
Some of it is judgment of others because they haven't been educated. And one of the things that happens is that judgment leads to those emotions that don't support us.
Right.
And it increases our isolation because we're not confident reaching out to ask for help. We're judging ourselves that we should be able to do something. We don't really know where to go and feel like, well, who do we ask? We should know, things like that. So those are the things that lead to us not being able to get sleep at night. Yeah. That we're trying to do it all ourselves, that we're
don't take any time for ourselves,
not taking any time, not practicing self-care, which again should be number one for anybody who
said should. I'm telling you.
Did I just?
Yeah.
Oh, I did. I said should be number one. You go, girl. Should we have a should counter?
we should. You put $5 in every time we say it.
Yeah, there you go.
We should do that.
That'd be good.
There you go.
The prioritization of our own self-care.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that helps us diminish the amount of judgment that there is. And then the permission. I think on the mental health part of it and the judgment part of it, and this is something you can certainly talk to from a much greater depth of experience, is that on that, when judgment goes away and we give ourselves permission not to feel okay,
not to do everything perfectly,
not to do everything perfectly, and not to know what to do next or why or things like that. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's just not okay to not be okay and not do something about it or reach out to someone.
Right. Well, and I mean, what you're speaking to is it gives you space, right? Like you're able to acknowledge that I don't know, and that's okay, right? And so that then gives you almost like gives you permission to then seek that support so that you can fight against isolation. Because the judgment, that all those emotions that can be associated with judgment keeps us inside of ourselves, keeps us in isolation. And that, I mean, y'all speak all the time about making sure you're staying connected. You ask for help, you get support. That's part of your self-care as the caregiver.
There's one other layer of judgment that comes in, and that is a byproduct. If you have a spouse and they don't want you to be sharing, it's their diagnosis, they don't want you to be sharing their diagnosis. And you're trying to keep everything from everybody else, and they're observing that something's not right, and they're making an perhaps incorrect judgment because they don't know, and then they're not able to provide the best kind of support, and then they're talking about it with other people, and that's not permeating anything that's supportive or helping, and other people don't know, and the way that they look at you or they look at them, it's just not in the healthiest of ways. So that's another area where judgment can be very detrimental.
You know what I thought you were going to talk about that's really interesting and unique. You've really taught me a lot about it, is also how we judge how other people react to our loved one with dementia.
Yes. That's a good point. Yeah, when the way that other people look or see or talk with them, or they're uncomfortable around them, and that could be some.
And we tend to judge them for that. Like I'm very disappointed because my husband's good friends didn't want to come around him anymore, and Sue taught me to be more. Give them grace, just like I'm giving myself grace.
Right.
You know, they deserve the grace. Some people, it reminds them of a bad situation they've been in the past. Either a family member or loved one had dementia, and it was a terrible situation for them. For some people, they just can't see their good friend in this diminished capacity. There's lots of reasons, but instead of judging them and being resentful, we need to give them grace to be who they are and be whatever headspace that they're in. And I had to learn that. Sue really taught me that.
I choose to give them all the grace in the world because I don't know what's going on in their world, and I choose not to judge that. And I choose to accept that if that's the way they're going to be judging it, that's on them.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, and y'all kind of mentioned, if you're in the caregiver role, there's other people, external people, right, that may be observing you in that role. And they may not know, and they don't know all the ins and outs. They don't probably even know maybe the significant decline that your loved one has gone through. They're just seeing it from the outside. And I know with dementia, there's good days, there's bad days, right? And it's not linear whatsoever.
Nope.
And so I, as a therapist for people that are in this caregiver role, I'm often having to help them process the judgment they're feeling from others that are watching them and saying, well, why are you taking their keys away? Why do you not give them their checkbook? Almost like it sounds a little dramatic, but this is what it comes across, like abuse. Why are you doing this to them?
And sometimes it's family members.
Absolutely. Many times. Exactly. I mean, what could that caregiver say or do to advocate for themselves in that role? Is there anything that y'all would recommend?
I have to say that I have the ultimate example of this was Emma Willis recently, when she went on TV and talked about the fact that they had moved Bruce into a separate home. And she has young children who are 11 and 13, I seem to remember. And she I knew it the minute I heard it. I thought, this is all anybody's going to talk about. And sure enough, for 3 days, that's all anybody talked about. And that was the only, forget all the great things she was doing. That's all anybody could say. Oh, she's put him in a separate home.
She put him in a home.
And it just inflamed me. And fortunately, about day 4, she came back and started defending herself. And the way she defended herself actually was pretty true. I couldn't help but agree with. And I actually got quoted in an article Us Weekly wrote about that, because I was so passionate about the fact that this is, until you've lived in the home of someone who has dementia, you just don't have any idea what's really going on, and you can't judge. And so you have to feel confident defending yourself. I think you really have to say, you have to trust that I'm the one living here every day, and I have my loved ones' best interest at heart. My goal is to keep their dignity and independence as much as possible, but I also need to keep them safe. And
so, keep your family members safe too. Because what didn't come out in that? Like Nancy and I have been on multiple caregiving journeys. They can get pretty messy. When my husband was okay, my husband was okay. When he went into what I call a dementia moment and he wasn't okay, when he was okay, I was his wife who loved him and he wanted to be around me. When he was in a dementia moment, he was fearful, and I was between him and whatever he wanted, and he was going to get me out of the way. So we don't know, and we don't walk around sharing with people what goes on. And so there are places where, observe and have respect, and, everybody gets to choose what they do. But to your point, is this really a space for judgment, or is this a space for grace and understanding and support?
And I just think you have to be confident. You have to say confidently, I'm doing the best I can with the situation, and I'm here every day. And a lot of people will tell me, once they have that, either from the children oftentimes, is that someone will waltz in, spend 2 hours with them, and then leave, and then say, I don't even understand what you're talking about. They're fine. Yeah. And you want to cry when that happens, because they're not fine. Yeah. And you're upset that someone thinks either you're dramatizing the situation, or that they're not going to support you the way you need them to support you, because they actually think everything's fine. Are you kidding me? Everything is not fine.
Yeah. Right.
So you do have to defend yourself. And I think it's important that people have the confidence to do that, to say straight out, I'm sorry, but I'm here every day, and I'm doing the best I can with the knowledge I've got. And I'm confident that this is the right decision to take away the keys or whatever.
Yeah. What I'm actually hopeful of is that what Emma talked about, the backlash and then the support.
Yeah. Then it came. That's a good point.
But what I hope is, we have in our world, we have tipping points. Yeah. And I believe that what happened was an incredibly valuable tipping point.
I hope so.
That people who start with a place of judgment of like, well, how could you possibly do anything like that? Once they began to understand, they recognized that there is more to this, and there were things behind it. So while we never want to have judgment, if that particular case, but other places, when people, judge not lest you be judged. Okay, go ahead, walk a mile in my shoes. It's something where I know for me, I don't choose to go to that energy. I don't choose to that. That's not energy I really want to be a part of. I accept that that's their perspective when people have that, and they're entitled to their own opinion. I prefer that they don't get in my way.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. But I like that y'all said that, because it is almost like you are the caregiver, and you have to remind yourself that you are the one that's walking in those shoes every single day. And that's something that I've had to remind my clients, like, you love this person so much, and it's really, really hard. And you're trying to navigate both of those things that are very opposing to one another. And so reminding them, like, you're very thoughtful of this. Because when I think about the clients that I've walked through with this journey with them, it's reminding them that they're not just making these decisions lightheartedly. They agonize over each step. Is it time to do this? Is it time to do that? And the majority of the time, they want so deeply for their loved one to have as much independence for as long as they can. And so having to make these decisions are so hard for them. And just reminding them of that. This is not easy.
No, it's not. It's a perfectly imperfect journey.
Right.
It's not like it's not like, okay, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going. They're going to be, well, this is going to happen, but then these things could happen, and then this will happen. So, and you can say, I'm going to do this. I think this is the best thing to happen. It's either going to work or it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I know something that we talked about when we spoke on the phone before was the sandwich generation and how tricky being in that stage of life and a caregiver is. And so can we talk a little bit about what is the sandwich generation? What are some of the challenges if you find yourself in that spot?
Yeah. There are actually multiple sandwiches. You go to a sandwich
Yeah.
shop, there are multiple choices. So there are multiple
Right.
sandwiches in the sandwich generation.
Yeah.
And there's like a panini and a traditional and a club sandwich and a like open face sandwich. So at any rate, the net of what it is that if you think, we'll just give one example. You're an adult, you're a working business professional, you're in your probably mid 40s. So when you're in your mid 40s, you probably have children who are either still at home or kind of still on mom and dad's.
Still launching, I like to say.
I like that. That's a really good way.
Yeah, that is good.
Still launching. Okay. So you have, both financial, plus, they still need mom and dad. So however, now more and more, you also have your mom and dad. They assumed they were going to live to a certain age. Medicine is keeping people alive longer, not necessarily healthier. And so now they're feeling the pressure of mom and dad potentially outliving what they thought they were going to need for their care until they passed away. Oh, and by the way, who else is living? The fastest growing generation, 85 and older. So now we also have grandmama and grandpapa. So you have people that professionally are in more senior levels of responsibility. They now have financial consideration. They were probably looking at, like, this is retirement things. I'm going to work for here. I've got a few more steps in the professional lens to be promoted into, and all of these things. And now they're like, wait a minute, I'm having to navigate my parents and the things that they've got, doctor's appointments, things like that, their finances and grandparents, and still while doing that. So they're sandwiched in the middle between caring for their own current and future needs, those of the seniors in their lives, and then those of still the young children. And sometimes it also includes the grandchildren. So like the panini generation, there are now many young people they've just recently started work. They probably still have some college debt. They may have just started a new family, and yet they've got seniors in their family where they've got to be finding time to care and support for them, and also sometimes to contribute financially. So they don't have a lot of time, but their parents don't have a lot of capacity to be caregiving either. So there are different sandwich generations with different kinds of pressures, but they're all there, and they're requiring us to look at things differently now. More and more people are being advised, when you're thinking about your financial plans, be sure that you have looked at the other generations that you may have to be supporting longer in your parents and your grandparents.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot to think about.
Yeah. And the sandwich generations who are working professionally, when you think of, you go to work all day and then they've got all of these additional demands, and it's if you're the CEO of a company and you've got employees who are in these sandwich generations, you don't want to lose their valuable institutional knowledge. You don't want to lose their leadership. They're part of your succession plan. You don't want to be losing them. And so often, because also caregivers don't want to lose their job, and if companies haven't acknowledged that there's a caregiving workforce, they're keeping this a secret. So they have all of these additional pressures on them in addition to the things that they're doing to care for their family. So it becomes a lot of different dynamics going on. And so there's a lot going on with the sandwich generation.
Yeah. I mean, just like what you're saying, working and, getting your loved one to appointments. I mean, because there's usually a lot of appointments, a lot of things to schedule and make. And it just goes back to when you can find support and link up with support. It's so important to do that. So you have some help. Yeah. And asking for help.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I want to hear from each of you what you would each say to somebody that's listening that just needs some encouragement right now. Like maybe they're in this caregiver role. Maybe they are anticipating being in this caregiver role. What would you each say as a word of encouragement?
Sue and I both, I'm not stealing your answer, I hope. Because Sue and I agree on this.
I'll come up with another one.
You have a few minutes while I'm talking to come up with your own answer. So what we talk about is when you get a diagnosis of dementia and you walk out of the doctor's office, you think your loved one just got a diagnosis of dementia and that you need to become a caregiver for this person, but you actually have to become a caregiver for two people. Mm-hmm. One of them is the person living with dementia, and the other one is you if you're the primary caregiver. And we say it's 50-50. And that's because you think that you have to give up yourself to caregive for the other person. But what you're really doing, if you give up everything that makes you and that gives you energy, is you're going to be a terrible caregiver. You're not going to have patience. You're not going to have empathy.
You're going to get sick.
You're going to get sick. You're just going to be a miserable caregiver for yourself and for the someone that you love. So you're not doing anybody any favors. So you have to walk out the door, and it's just so counterintuitive. You have to walk out the door. I'm now a caregiver for two people, and I have to take that responsibility equally, internalize it equally. And I need to spend 50% of my time making sure my loved one is cared for and 50% of my time making sure I am cared for. And that is such a mindset that is so counterintuitive when you first are a caregiver.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. What about you, Sue?
Did I take it?
No.
Oh, you have another one. Oh, good.
Yeah. Well, it's along the same lines.
Okay.
Nancy and I are both around the world travelers. We traveled a lot for many, many years. Every single flight you get on, they have the little safety thing, and they say, put your oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on someone else. And I thought, I get that, but I want to know why. I want to know what the big deal is. So one of the things I would encourage everyone is to think about the oxygen mask as being self-care. And I went out and I looked at the things that when you're depleted, how long it takes the brain to not be able to think, how long it takes the body to not be able to react, all of those kinds of things. So when we think about shaving off, and I'll speak only for myself because, I
did this.
I did this. I was like, I can shave a little bit of it. For example, my husband was a CFO, numbers guy all the time. He loved doing the books. Well, the diagnosis progresses. He's doing the books, just not right. So I was like, okay, I'll put him to bed. and then I'll fix it.
Redo the books.
I'll just redo the books. You'll never know. Shave off a little self-care, shave off a little sleep, shave off a little of this. And then there comes a day when you kind of should have shaved off a little less. Got the should in there because that was what it was. At any rate, literally go look at the definition of why you put the mask on first. And it's exactly the same for self-care. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not rested, you can't think as well, your body can't move as well. Right. You don't have all of the things that they talk about for that. And so when we talk about that, that's one part of it. And then the other part of it is, and this is the compassion, the grace side of the should. The thing is, no, you're really not supposed to have all the answers. It's okay. It's really okay to not have all the answers and to reach out for help. And it's also okay, this is my last piece that I will share. One of the things that breaks my heart is when a loved one is keeping the secret of their spouse, because when they were young and in love, they said, listen, pinky promise, we're not going to share with it. We're not going to go into the home. We can do this on ourselves. We can take care of each other. And so one of the spouses is trying to do that because they're honoring a promise they're not meant to keep. Evaluate promises. And you're a family member listening to this, and you can sense there's something wrong with mom and dad's not saying anything, or vice versa. Are they keeping a promise they're not meant to keep? And go ahead and take care of both, because oftentimes the caregiver can get sick and sometimes they even die before their loved one.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's really good. Okay. So speaking of self-care, what would y'all recommend for caregivers? How can they take care of themselves well?
Also in the roadmap, we emphasize education, because when you educate yourself, you have more patience, you have more peace of mind, you have more confidence. And we emphasize self-care, and we emphasize how and when to get additional help. So you don't have to do it all yourself, and you don't have to move your loved one into a care community because you can't do it all yourself. There are middle grounds. There's places to start. You can go to memory cafes with your loved one where you have some relief from having to come up with today's activities because you and your loved one are going to do whatever the activities are in the memory cafe. There are dementia day centers where you can take your loved one. I heard something on a podcast the other day. It was just brilliant. So dementia day centers, you find one that you like and you want to take your loved one, but how are you going to bring up the fact that you want to take them to an adult care, right?
Sure.
Well,
yeah.
Guess what this person said? It was so smart. She said, what you say is, I've met some people, and so let's go have coffee with them. She said, all the day centers will invite you to have coffee and just stay for an hour and you have coffee. But that is a good way to say, I've met some people, let's go have coffee with them. Anyway, there's lots of interim steps you could take to help give you some what's called respite in this world. It really just means some relief, where you can leverage other resources to get relief, friends and family, etc. And we talk a lot about that in the roadmap of where and how to get what kind of relief at what point in your journey.
And we'll model something that we encourage people to do. So, Nancy, if someone offers help, what do you say?
Yes, when someone offers help, I say, yes, I would love that help. Thank you, thank you. And then I figure out what they're going to do to help me. Yeah. I say yes first, and then I worry about what they're going to do. So yes, that's what we say. Just say yes when someone offers to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't really even matter what the help is. Just say yes.
You just say yes, and then you worry about the details later.
Yeah.
Yes. One thing I just thought of, are there any misconceptions? I mean, I feel like we kind of have, I mean, I know the answer is yes.
Lots of misconceptions.
Wait, how many more hours do we have?
Exactly. I thought you wanted to keep this high level.
Well, are there any you'd like to mention based on what we've talked about so far?
I'll tell you one, and I got this from Sue. I think what happens, this also follows the early on when you're first in your journey and your loved one starts doing things that aren't right. They walk into the that you send them into the bedroom to get their clothes on, and they come back with their bathrobe on, and they think they've dressed to go out to lunch.
Yeah.
You are punched in the gut because you realize, oh my goodness, they don't know how to put their clothes on anymore. And but you feel like you're really mad about it. And so you get angry, the first few times it happens, you get angry because you are, you're not giving yourself the grace to not know what to do. And then secondly, you spend a lot of time in the early stages when all these things start to happen, thinking about the way it used to be. Well, I used to could send them in there and they could put their clothes on. And why can't they do that now? Right.
Yeah.
Or you take it to the extreme and you fortune tell into the future. You're like, oh my goodness, he's never going to be able to get his clothes on again. And then what am I going to do? I don't know how to handle it. So there's just a piece in being where things are right now in the moment and not wishing for the way it used to be or fortune telling into the future, but just settling into the moment and say, okay, let's go put your clothes on. So when I think of a misconception, the misconception is that I can't live in this very moment. And I encourage you to do more of that than anything. Just be in the moment,
that's
whatever
good.
it is.
Yeah. That's so true because that's, oh man, such a good word. Because I mean, because what are all the, I'm thinking emotionally, what does that do to you when you're thinking about what was and when you're anticipating what's to come?
Terrible.
It's debilitating. I mean, you're paralyzed. You can't do anything about what was the past and what's the future. You can only do what is right in front of you, which is go help them get dressed. And because tomorrow they might be able to go get dressed. I mean, that's the thing that is so maddening is there are such significant good days and such significant not so good days. And you never know. You never know what you're going to get at any given moment, right? So hard. Yeah. Okay. Well, for y'all personally, what do y'all do to take care of yourselves well as just people, humans in the world?
The number one thing I do is I pretty much work out 6 days a week. I get up in the morning and I get my workout in right away. I absolutely love to do that. It's one of the most important things I can do for myself. And I very, very rarely do I let anything interrupt that.
What do you do for exercise?
I lift weights, I do cardio, and I do a ton of stretching.
Okay.
So,
love it.
And depending on what time it is, because a very early riser. So usually the sun isn't up and I'll go to the gym. But if there are times, sometimes I love being out walking when the birds are still chirping. There's not a lot of noise outside with the cars and everything. And there's just something, and the walking when listening to the kind of the world wake up, there's just something so peaceful about that.
Well, that's nice. Okay. What about you, Nancy?
Well, I also am an everyday exerciser, 6 days a week anyway, as Sue is. So I let nothing get in the way. I've been that way for as long as I can remember. My children knew for the first couple of hours on a Saturday or Sunday, Mom's going on a run. That's what it is. Don't be asking for anything. But I also love to travel, and my husband passed away last December. So I've been doing a lot of travel. I'm gone all the time because I feel like that's so energizing for me to travel.
Yeah.
I love it.
What's a place that you've been to recently?
I just got back from New York yesterday.
Oh, very nice. What'd you do there?
My niece lives in Brooklyn, so we just went up there. My sister and I did, and we did New Yorky things, as you can imagine. 9/11 Center, walked across the Brooklyn Bridge, a little bit of everything.
Ate at good restaurants.
Yes.
It was lovely.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I love it. Nancy and Sue, thank you so much. Words don't describe how grateful I am that I found the two of you. I think I mentioned before, I mean, obviously for my clients, but personally, like this is something that's near and dear to my heart. It's personally affecting my life, my family's life. And so I just know that, the information that y'all are putting out is life-changing. And so I'm just so thankful to get to meet you, have this conversation, and encouraged by all of the things that y'all have to offer in this neck of the woods. So thank you.
That is so nice. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And we really appreciate the opportunity to come on and share to your audience. And we appreciate the opportunity to support you on your caregiving journeys, whether it's you directly or whether you're the loved one of someone who's on their caregiving journey. If they choose to come out and they've got questions, they can certainly reach out to us.
So it's very easy to find us. We are at thecaregiversjourney.org. But if you just put in
That's right.
Caregiver's Journey podcast, Sue, Nancy podcast, we're all, you found us easily, right? We're everywhere.
I did.
So
I found you very easily.
Very easily. Where there's little icons at the bottom of the home screen. You can find guides, podcasts, blogs. It's easy to navigate as well, I think.
But one of the things that we say when we end every one of our podcasts is,
we're all on this journey together. Yes, we are.